Hello everyone, and welcome to the Deeply Renegade podcast. My name is Molly, also known as the Deeply Renegade, and I'd like to welcome you guys to episode 330. Today is Sunday, August 16th, 2020, and I'm glad you could join me today. Something very bizarre happened. We had a thunderstorm. So this morning was, or would it be at 3:30 this morning, I woke up to thunder and lightning and then ran around the house, closing windows. So that was entertaining. But now my window in this room is clean. Yay! Maybe the window in the front is closer to clean. I don't know. Whatever. The small things. The fog just sort of like carries the dust and attaches it to things, so what it be? It's sort of nice to actually have a clear view. The rain did amazing things. But according to my friend who's been living in the area for quite some time, it's very rare to have a thunderstorm because it's very rare to have a temperature differential that results in that. But I think by now things have appropriately cooled off. The thunder has stopped, but such is life. So I got my coffee, got my projects right around me, so it's looking like we're doing pretty good. I have been, what would it be, focusing on two things this week. On, I believe, Saturday, Saturday the 22nd at midnight is the end of Stash Dash. So, it is my goal to get a lot of things wrapped up that are possible to wrap up. I highly suspect that if I knit continuously on my Mesa sweater wrap until it was done, that would be many, many, many more hours than I'm willing to be awake and probably with time remaining. So that's okay. It's not getting done. But what is very, very, very close to being done is my sizzle pop. So I started one row after weighing for the repeat. So whatever, I have my variegated yarn on one end and my semi-solid on the other. But I did one repeat this week, not crazy progress. Whatever. The rows are long. So there's like 20 and a half repeats on this right now, across this way, and about 40 down the length or something like that. So, like, I can hold it in such a way. I think this longest edge is taller than I am by a good bit. So not too crazy there. But based upon my weighing of this thing, well, the total amount of yarn adds up to having, the total amount of yarn adds up to having 4 repeats left. My variegated is getting depleted slightly faster, or was slightly smaller. So as a result, I just have 3 of these leaves left to go, and I'll be done. I will have used the yarn to the point where I could not knit anymore. So, not too crazy. But what would it be? It's probably unrealistic to expect in a week for me to do 3 repeats when a particularly productive week involves 2. But who knows? I'm not too worried about it. It is already quite big. I am sort of impressed that I managed to knit it all. I started it on the 28th of March, which basically boiled down to when the day that I finally could find the balls of yarn. Because it was one thing that I regretted packing during my year of exile in 2019. So, Smutzerella yarns in the You Can Never Have Enough Socks. And You Can Never Keep Me Down. And you can sort of see how this guy is noticeably smaller than the purple one. So, what would it be? There could be like a possibility that based on yarn usage I could do like a final repeat in purple, but I don't think I really want to mess with it at this point. 3 will be plenty. So this is living in my Paisley Birds bag, which makes me very happy. It's one of my favorite bags to use. And what's actually been an interesting development in this shawl is actually it seems to be pooling a little bit more with these recent rows. For some reason I was getting maybe a little bit less of where would it be? You can sort of see here how this last row of leaves is noticeably blue, or noticeably blue in regions where the other ones are a little bit more mottled in appearance. It's not like it's the end of the world, it's just entertaining that it worked out that way. So we'll see where things take me from there, because the whole thing didn't necessarily seem to be, there's so much of this. This is going to be a, or whatever, it's going to be an ass covering shawl. So big. It probably, I don't know, I guess it wouldn't have been enough to have done, I think, the square version. It probably would have been a little bit too small if that had been the case. But so this would be how it would be worn. So you would have these diagonal lines of leaves going across it, even though it's knit that way. So, and if I place this on the floor, it's still out of frame. So quite a lot of knitting went into this, and it'll be spend sort of a marker for time and shelter in place and mostly staying at home and that sort of thing. So would it be good to whatever finish that chapter as you do. So I think I did a few rows, like 1 total row on my Mesa sweater wrap because I left that shawl across the house and didn't feel like getting up. But yeah, no, so it's gonna be on the back burner until whatever I bind off the shawl or what have you. I think I was secretly hoping that I could get 2 repeats done this week, but I am working on a different project, so let's take it to spinning. So I was a little bit late recording because I was wondering if I could finish playing this, but I'm gonna guess that what would it be? It'll be well into the evening before I'm done with this one. But these are my bobbins for my Nest tulip spin. I am doing this as a part of the Fun Onion Challenge and the Nest Feather Your Nest Challenge. And so I picked these colors because they reminded me of the colors of tulips, which is a part of my Dutch heritage. My family Used to have one of the largest tulip farms or had the largest tulip farm in the United States. So thought that was pretty cool. So I am plying together a yarn that sort of combines these 6 colors together. So we've got, I think, almost all of them on display in this particular bobbin. So there's almost, whatever. So we have white, this golden, yellow, orange, purple, pink, and I think this one's red. It's a little hard to tell. I'm directly across from the window, which does result in no awkward, there's probably the best lighting in the room, but this chair is in a slightly awkward location in the room, so we'll figure out if this works or not, or if I'll keep rearranging the furniture. Like this one, I'm pretty sure is the red. Whatever. And I ended up splitting this fiber into 3 bobbins. There was approximately 6 ounces in the bag, so 1 ounce lengths of top. And I split this group into 7 pieces, this group into, I can't remember if this one was 4ths or 3rds, and this one was the other. I'm guessing that this one was the 3rd and this was the 4th. So this results in some longer color runs with this, and this involves sort of shorter blips. And you can sort of see by this section maybe in here, I did combo draft with the shorter lengths. So once I had a hand of fiber left, then I started incorporating the next color to make it so that maybe the transitions weren't as jarring. I'm not sure. But the goal was to create a yarn like Spin Cycle dyed in the wool, because this was dyed in the wool. And overall, what would it be? It makes me wonder if I wanted to do like a slightly different strategy to maximize barber pulling. But whatever, it's not like it's the end of the world. So my highest contrast colors are the gold and the white. And so what ends up happening, and even then it's really the white that is the one that ends up contrasting, and that's the one that shows very obvious barber pulling. So right now the section I'm working on is actually 2 strands white, 1 strand orange, just based on how the colors fell. And that might be like a little crazy in terms of the barber pulling. But there are definitely sections like this one right here where like it's a combination of red, pink, and purple, or red, pink, and orange, or red, orange, purple. Like those ones that were sort of closer together in the color wheel, they all had very similar saturation, and so they're sort of making more solid sections. But whatever, I think it is going to end up resulting in sort of those cool color transitions, but I do really like when I get a strand of white or yellow in. So knowing what I know now, I would have separated my very contrasty colors, my white and yellow, and just made a ply of white and yellow, and probably mixed it up however. And then had mixed up plies of the red, purple, and orange in order to create something that was barber pulled throughout. Like obviously barber pulled throughout, because these other ones ended up sort of being more blendy and harmonious. I don't know. A swatch will also probably tell the same story, but it'd be the case where then I would have barber pulling throughout the whole thing, but then I wouldn't have accidentally have like 2 or 3 strands of yellow and white all at the same time. Whatever. Now I know. I could have sampled. So it's coming together. I'm guessing I'd probably have 2 or 3 ounces left to apply at this point, so totally doable. Today I finished spinning my shortest color length combo drafted one on Friday, let it rest overnight, started applying on Saturday. Haven't done too much knitting this weekend. I've done no knitting this weekend, correction. Just applying. There's a lot of applying left to go. So, time to record a podcast. Well, the light's good. What would it be? The Dear Sweet Level and I were working on a project that involved lots of loud noises, so while my specific presence wasn't required, whatever type of saw he was using to cut things in situ in the bedroom meant the best time to record was too loud to record. Oh well, hopefully we'll be stubbing our toes less on the bed frame. Maybe that after all that if we still do, but oh well, whatever. And at this point we're waiting for felt feet to arrive from Amazon so that we can install everything back on the floor, because currently the bed was sitting on a moving blanket, and that I don't want that to be a long-term solution, so one of 2 things need to happen: a rug or felt feet. So we're holding off until that occurs. So another thing that was a little bit of an adventure that was neither knitting nor spinning was I ended up doing another experiment with undying yarn. So a while ago I showed you the skein that I decided would be better if it was more blue, and it turned out that wasn't true. So after successfully removing a lot of green from that skein, I then over-dyed it with pink that resulted in it being a maraschino cherry color. So, or whatever. I probably removed enough dye that I could have probably safely made it blue too, but whatever. I just wanted to be sure. So I removed the dye by making the water basic by adding baking soda. With this particular sweater, what had happened was it was a pastel, it was sort of like a pastel gray purple sort of blue color. What would it be? I was challenging myself a little bit color-wise, and I should have gone with the saturated blue when I had bought yarn for that particular kit. But this is Haleakala. Is that true? It might be a different name. Hallelujah. I think it's Hallelujah. So this is a Mel design that I bought the kit for. So this is mustache yarn. I over-dyed it with purple, and that worked out fairly well. And then I added black, and that didn't work very well. So I had patches of black on the over-dyed sweater, and it was pretty awkward. It was awkward enough you wouldn't even donate it. So I was unhappy with how that turned out, so I knew I needed to rearrange the dye. Like, I was okay with the dark color I ended up getting, but I was not okay with the big swatches. So, put in baking soda, dumped the sweater into the hot pot, got a decent amount of the dye off, but this time I didn't do multiple rinses and just pour that dye down the sink. what I did was extract the sweater, put it sort of in holding for a little bit, took my pot, added citric acid until it stopped like fizzing, because baking soda plus acid equals volcano. I wish I'd taken a picture of that because it was pretty crazy. I just kept stirring the pot until it was, I felt that it was, adding more citric acid was not reacting with the baking soda anymore. And so I shifted the water acidic with all of this dye still in there. It definitely looked to be sort of like a tealy green was what I succeeded in getting off of this bad boy. And then I took the sweater, or actually what I then did was I just sort of had my sweater in my washing tubs, basically. I then poured my acidic dye bath into it. And so I knew this whole time I hadn't really changed the volume of water, so I knew I could keep everything so that I could heat it up. But what I did was I had this hot acidic dye liquid that used to be basic. I poured it onto my sweater, which was at this point still pretty toasty. And then I took that whole thing, I just left it in the bathtub for, I don't know, an hour or so. And so there was still the heat to help set the dye, but since it wasn't actually on the stovetop, that meant things were moving a little bit more slowly. And I did succeed in achieving a uniform color. So, yay. Now, it is a little bit funny because the Dear Sweet Lovable one, I think he can be sometimes very, very simple. So you see here, like there's, like it's definitely sort of a steely sort of purple. When I don't think that I managed to get a good picture of what it looked like beforehand. Or I didn't get a picture sort of that intermediate step, I don't believe. But let me see. Yeah, no, I didn't get a good picture of the intermediate state. I know I only... But look at those splotches. I just screwed this up really bad. Yeah, no, sorry, I'm like, yeah, no. Whereas now, I show you the back. This guy is now a solid color. So, the Dear Sweet Lovable one, I think, just, like, it really skeeves his color sense out to, what would it be, sort of have colors that may be opposite each other on the color wheel be combined together, be that, like, applying something that is, like, blue and orange, like, that just reads super brown 5000 to him, so even though, like, it's many colors, like, he just reads it as, like, mud, and I think he felt the similar way about this guy here, because you have sort of that purple, or what ended up having was sort of like a pink and green to create this purple. So there's definitely gray elements to it because I created it by making purple and black, or combining purple and black together. So what didn't come off the sweater as I removed the dye was all of the pinks. So it was like a purpley pink color when I pulled it out and it was very blotchy. So, and it had been my plan all along to reattach the dye. So, left it for an hour. Then I put everything back into the pot, heated up the pot, and then tried to get everything to set again. I might have added a little bit more acid in case that was going to help it bind, but at some point I was like, oh my gosh, this isn't changing. So I went and grabbed some undyed yarn in the stash. So what was remaining in the pot was sort of this pepperminty green color. So the green skein is actually my first wheel spun yarn. It is a Coopworth that I made when I was in Albuquerque, and I used it as a yarn mop before. I'd used it to soak up blue dye that wasn't clearing. And would it be very interesting to go back and look at how much my wheel spun yarn has changed, but super even color coverage on this. So this buffered dyeing process I think does end up resulting in a very solid color in the end. Be like, oh, there's a little bit of crunchy curly Q happening in this, but whatever, such is life. So, and then the other thing I grabbed was some spinning samples from SSK. So I believe this was from Maggie Casey's class about various drafting methods, I believe, or sort of understanding the variables you could control while you're spinning. And so this is mixed BFL, so it started off as sort of brown and white. And there's actually two little skeins hanging out in here. This one that you can mostly see is spun over the fold, which is a project that I would like to, or in order to make something that involves sort of a whole project. And then this guy is the little sample that I ended up making. That is sort of my normal drafting. So this is a short forward that is super duper fine. But the issue with going super duper fine is that you end up losing a lot of the squish factor. So even though this is soft, smooth, lovely against the skin yarn, it just doesn't have the body and fluff that this guy has. So I think I'm struggling now with doing sort of a thick short forward draw, but this over the fold like really helps make the fluff big. So I need to spin some yarn like this for a project. But these seem to be mostly bare yarns that I could use to soak up the remaining dye. And it wasn't like a ton. I might have poured some dye down the drain as well, because at some point I was just like, okay, this isn't doing anything. It was also really interesting because when I had initially pulled it out, like, both of these ended up getting very curly, so I'm not entirely sure what happened there. I uncurled it by drying it far apart from itself so it would chill out a little bit. So, yeah, there's still a decent amount of twist energy in that bad boy. But, so, accidentally dyed a little yarn. Needed the yarn mop, called it good. So, not too crazy. And I'm thinking maybe it would be fun to use these in a project together. On one hand, while it's entertaining to hold on to some of my early skeins and be like, oh wow, I've come a long way since then. Like, be like, eh, I'm good. Would it be some ways better, other ways different? Because would it be, I think what sort of texturally makes me happy about this is that I did have quite a bit more floof early on in my spinning days, and I've lost that in a way. But if I do combine these together, it's a little bit challenging because minty green is not a usual color for me, so I don't know whether or not I would keep it or not. And the Coopworth is maybe like a little bit less next to skin, but since they're dyed together, it seems like maybe they should stick together. The Coopworth did have like a little bit of very light blue on it, but you can't tell anymore. Oh, whatever. So, like, I don't know, whatever, the alternative to being like, meh, minty green would be throw in some blue and call it good. Options. So, there's that. There definitely are some places on the sweater that are blotchy, but it is so much better now that, what would it be? Should be good. And I probably would have shown it last week, because I think it was done last week. But with the yarn, that particular sweater needs to be tumble dried in order for it to turn out the right size, because it has a very, very deep V. Like, I need to, it's like my boobs are outside of the sweater if I don't tumble dry it, but the dryer was missing its lint trap and the sleeves got trapped in it, so I had to re-wet it to re-block it. So right now it's sort of in a slightly too big state, but now that the dryer lint has been purchased and reinstalled, it should be good now. No, whatever. I found all sorts of hilarious things that I got caught in there. Like a vape pen, and boxer shorts, and tons of lint. All sorts of weirdo things, but oh well. Such is life. So, let's see. I have this cowl sitting by me because I grabbed it as a prop for knit night. One of the women who joined in last night had been to like a knit night once before, but had joined in last night, and this was a person who, like, as an introvert, like, there are benefits to shelter in place. I get to be home and get to be very recharged in some ways, and then find my social interaction and engage in it as I want. It was pretty clear this woman was an extrovert, and this was one of her first times doing like an online meetup, and she was so chatty. So she was talking about how she's really loving chevrons and texture, and was debating whether or not she wanted to do a cowl that had a Kitchener stitch finish. And I'm like, here's a chevron cowl that I did a Kitchener stitch finish on. So that's why this is sitting here. It makes me happy. It still makes me happy. So this is roughly based on the chevron infinity delight scarf, but I made it as a tube and as an infinity twist as well for extra funsies. So it was good to show off. That's, I think, the side benefit to, that is the side benefit to having Knit happen at home, is that you can run into an outfit change or run and grab a project and be like, hey, look, this is cool. So, in terms of future knitting, because I'm going to be finishing something soon, I pulled out my cotton. So, this is the first time I spun cotton. This, I believe that I ended up doing this last year or the year before. So I'm going to be knitting a Empower People Project bandana with this because it is purple. So they're, whatever. I suppose that does look purple on the screen. So there's, what would it be? It's 2 colors of hip string that I dyed, or that I ended up applying together to create sort of a mini gradient. So I have unicorn tie-dye and blueberry crumble. And so a third of this skein is unicorn tie-dye on itself, a third of it is blueberry crumble on itself, and then the middle is combo plied. So not too crazy. It should be a lot of fun. I think it looks pretty cute. So I will wind this once all of my stash dash projects are finished, and then go to town. So I think it'll be healthy for me to have a small project that I can quickly complete. I don't recall the yardage on this. It may be the case where this ends up being a bigger bandana than the pattern calls for. And I might end up doing a variation where I end up doing brioche with this as well. You know, it's just to increase the squish factor. I'm not sure. Because I do enjoy brioche. It'll be sad that brioche will be coming to an end. But yeah, no, so I figured that this was a good one. So the Empower project is to help raise awareness about voting, and I'm finally registered to vote in the state of California. My driver's license arrived this weekend, so yay! Totally had my driver's license photo with me wearing my dangly turquoise earrings and a bohus. You can't see much of the bohus, but I have a big smile because I'm wearing my bohus. So, and with that, since I'm all good in the eyes of the state of California, I will be able to vote. Thank goodness. So, for those of you, what would it be? The big reminders I have are, have you registered to vote? And what would it be? Do you know where to drop off your ballot? So I will be having my ballot mailed to me, because that's whatever, one of the nice things about California, but I'll be driving to City Hall in San Francisco to turn it in. So, so I hope, whatever, please take the time to figure out whether or not you can, or would it be whether or not you're actually registered, and educate yourself on, would it be, the various issues at stake. My favorite resource is, my favorite resource is the League of Women Voters. So you're able to put in information about where you live, and it ends up having very concise, easy to understand summaries about all the things you'll be voting on, all the people you'll be voting for. So I found it to be incredibly helpful to, in terms of educating myself on what's going on. Would it be Leanne, who is one of the employees at Firebird Yarns, has been advocating heavily about this. And one of the things was that when when I ended up meeting her in person, she did warn me about how super duper confusing 5,000 some of the ballot initiatives are in California, and that they're worded in weaselly ways, and that she actually has like a party where like her husband and like lawyer friends like sit around interpreting what it actually means. So I'm hoping that when I pull up the League of Women's Voters thing, that it will make sense as well. So just things to be aware of. I did want to promote that, and I probably will continue to promote it as I'm working on this project. What would it be? Because I was in danger of missing out on voting because of whatever the challenges involved in getting everything sorted. So I am glad that that ended up getting taken care of. So I'll be using this project as a way to remind people as whatever months. Would it be, I think the other fun fact is the earliest I can turn in my ballot is the 5th of October, so I may be doing that as well. As you do. So, purple yarn. I have a variety of purple hand spun, but I figured that this one was going to be a fun one for the project. And there are 3 different patterns available. They're all free. The knitting one is by Casapinka. There's also a crochet version and a sewing version. So even if you are not knitterly inclined, but I'm assuming everyone who watches my podcast is knitterly, but whatever. I know I've seen a lot of people who have gone to the crochet end of the, or whatever. I've been tempted by the crochet, so whatever, in these times of shelter in place and whatnot, so shouldn't be too crazy. And I'm probably only sewing curious when it comes to that. Or would it be definitely not sewing curious enough to borrow a machine? So, shouldn't be too crazy. But I know that I had previously talked about knitting the bandana with my Urban Girls yarn, but that wasn't very purple. This is much more purple. So, and while I'm wearing this, it'll be a good opportunity to educate people as well. So there's also the side benefit too. The cotton is not going to be too hot as we enter the hot part of the year in San Francisco. So would it be? It got up to 88 in the house. We had our little heat wave where, what would it be there? Most houses in San Francisco and the general Bay Area don't have air conditioning, because in general it is normally 57. But sometimes the wind changes direction and all the hot air from inland comes here. So, what would it be? And my office definitely doesn't have AC, so there really is no relief. There's a portable unit, but that's pointed at a very important machine, and I think there'd be a lot of trouble if you impeded the cold air from flowing upon that very important machine. Whatever. So such is life. But as we head towards the fall, it actually does end up getting hot occasionally. And so that means having like the windows open to let the breeze through the house, and this particular room is best aligned for whole house breeze creation. So not too crazy. I think today, I don't know, it's very comfortable today because we had thunderstorms, because we finally had a big enough temperature differential that we could have one. So happy for the cold front. What would it be? I think the only other bit of news was, so my spinning group, which is a part of the Spin 15 a day, I'm actually going to be alternate host for a couple of weekends because Cheryl, our intrepid leader, is not available for 2 Fridays in a row. So if you want to come and hang out, we'd be more than happy to have you. So that happens at 6 p.m. Pacific time, Friday nights. And it's an entertaining group, so I'm happy that I was able to sub for her. And she's actually having like a sale right now to pay for the license needed in order to make that happen. So I posted something on my Instagram about that, so for the fiber spinning inclined. But what would it be? I'm really happy that we're figuring out a way to keep the community going without outages, so I thought that was pretty cool. And I'm also curious about what you guys think about new location. I'm glad I found a way to get a little bit of yarn into the shop, even a handspun cubby. Yay! And then careful cropping so that you can't see the chaos, which is just off this chair wing. I have spent most of the weekend spinning in this chair, and I am very pleased. The other chair I think was a little bit too deep, so this one is a lot better back support, which is exciting. But I may need to do a small modification of the chair to make it a little bit higher, because this was meant for someone smaller than I, just so I can have level knees when spinning. So not too crazy. It isn't like there's pain, but probably be smart ergonomically if this is going to be my main chair of spinning to have it work out. So what would it be? And I haven't yet rearranged the room. We'll see how I feel about the setup. Whatever, make it work. It's sort of nice to have 2 chairs in here, but it's sort of also a bit crowded as well, so oh well. So things are looking like no change for recording next week. Maybe I'll get back on Saturdays again. It's my intention to record on Saturdays, so such is life. So with that, I hope you guys have a lovely week, and I look forward to talking to you guys next week. So take care, guys. Bye-bye.